Well, it's Monday, September 29th, 2025. I was going to say 1995. XRP is sitting at about $2.90. It looks, we're still ranging really, guys. I mean, we might go back up to 315 and then hit it back down to 287 or something. You never know. But while the prices are this low, I'm reminded of those days when you could buy it for 50 cents. Well, how long ago was it? That was a year ago. You could buy it for 50 cents. Just a few years before that, you could buy it for 30 cents, or a year before that. And before that, it was 25 to 29, and before that, it was 17. It's gone up steadily, but we've never had this much regulatory clarity because we won that lawsuit against the SEC. We didn't have a pro-crypto president. We didn't have 20 plus XRP spot ETFs inbound. A couple of them already approved. We've got the generic framework now so that people can actually jump in very quickly and get ETFs, spot ETFs applied for and approved. How convenient for the major players. So this is where we're at now. A lot of tailwinds, as they call it, right? The wind at our backs. So a lot of this cool stuff is going on. And while this is going on, you got to keep an eye on what's going on in the space. It doesn't matter if the market's going slow or losing a little bit of ground. The developments, the integration, and the adoption are moving ahead at lightning speed from every corner of the planet, everywhere, every government, every financial institution, anywhere that counts in the financial industry, they're moving fast forward with this. And just to give you an idea of what's being considered, I saw this soundbite. It's about a 3-minute deal. And this is from Joel Katz, or not Joel Katz, I guess Joel Katz is what he goes by, David Schwartz. He is the Chief Technology Officer at Ripple. Actually, I think his title may have changed, but he's the smart guy that puts together the blockchain, the main programmer, right? He also worked on Bitcoin, by the way. I think he's one of the Satoshis. That's just my thinking. I'm not the only one who thinks that. But this soundbite's real interesting. You got to listen to the whole thing. And so I'm going to give this here a quick from High Vibe Assets. It says XRP equal world reserve currency status. Systemically important. Bang. We are watching financial end game in real time. This is colossal. XRP, RLUSD, XRPL, too big to fail. I think he misspelled RLUSD. Never forget David Schwartz said, see, he misspelled David too, puts Davis, said this out of his own mouth, recorded. Yeah, this was a little deal that he did. Man, I think High Vibe Assets was having a good time. Anyhow, I think one thing I want you to focus on this soundbite here. He's talking about the idea of a potential world with more than one world reserve currency, 2, for instance, in which case interoperability is important. And that's what digital ledger technology is. The ILP also, the interledger protocol, which is also from Ripple and XRP. And all of this developed under David Schwartz. This interoperability layer, say you have more than one world reserve currency, that is why I have said in the past, and many people have said it also, because this is the prevailing idea that XRP will be a world reserve digital bridge currency. It'll interoperate with anything, from anything to anything, 3.5 seconds, 24/7, 365. Trustless. You don't have to trust anybody. It's just going to give you equal value of exchange at lightning speed and full settlement, money in your hand. Right? So you pay something, you've paid it instantly. You got paid for something, you got paid instantly. Minimal fees, and as close to the actual price and value, exchange and value, for that split second that you can get. Maybe 5 seconds later, one currency is worth more than the other. One asset is worth more than the other. But if you get it at that within 3 to 5 seconds, you'll get as close to equal value as you can. And that's important when you're exchanging value, a unit of count. But what XRP's role in that new future is going to be is still not as clear as it could be, but it will be valuable. I mean, as an investor, that's all I'm looking for. everything I see makes me believe it's going to be more valuable. So listen to the soundbite. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and bookmark. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Until next time, adios, amigos. And oh no, I was going to share something else with you, but that's on another video. See you on the next one. Check out the sound.
Do you believe that there can be two existing world reserve currencies to simultaneously exist?
I do, and I think that could happen. I think it's quite realistic that a lot of the world is just done with the dollar as their reserve currency. And I think that there's a lot of places that are willing to try something else. And one of my scenarios, and I don't think it's going to play out quickly, but like one of my wild case success scenarios for a digital asset is if countries start to realize that the U.S. dollar is not going to be the reserve currency forever. Other things are going to be the reserve currency. Yeah. And the same thing that we saw with banks. Like people, when we started selling software to banks, people would say to me, why would a bank use something that like you guys were selling them when they could use something that was like made by banks? And what they didn't realize is that, only like 10 banks in the country, on the planet, are Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, like the ones who would build a system that the entire planet would run on. For the rest of the banks, that's 6,000 smaller banks, those are their biggest, strongest competitors. Those are the entities they hate the most. They would not want to use the system built and maintained by them because it's going to be biased in favor of them, their biggest and strongest competitors. And I think the same thing could happen to nations. Like every nation would love for their currency to be the world reserve currency. That's helped the U.S., that's grown the U.S. economy, quote unquote, unfairly by leaps and bounds for decades. And every other country would be like, yeah, we'd like to have the world be the world reserve currency. But the only countries that could possibly pull it off is the U.S. holding its position, maybe the EU, maybe Russia, maybe one or two others. But realistically, most countries know that if there's going to be a new world reserve currency that's a country's currency, it's not going to be them. And so they might actually prefer a currency that nobody can control to one that's controlled by their largest geopolitical rivals. And so that's like what I think is the biggest possible success scenario for digital assets. If these countries are like, okay, well, the U.S. dollar can't hold on forever, but it's not going to be our currency because no one's going to want to repeat the U.S. dollar. Nobody but the EU wants the EU to replace the dollar, right? Nobody but Russia wants the ruble to replace the dollar. Nobody but China wants the yuan to replace the dollar. So maybe they could settle on a currency that nobody could control rather than one controlled by their most powerful geopolitical rival. So if you want a success scenario, that's the one that I think is the most likely.
But the money question is, how do you get everybody to agree?
Well, they might agree if the alternative is that their geopolitical rivals force some new replacement for the dollar that's not, if they just replace, the old boss with a new boss. If the choice is no boss, if that happens to make a bunch of cryptocurrency people rich, I don't think they're going to see that as too much of a minus.
Why not?
That's good.
Yeah. It was great talking to you guys.
I got one question, just one question. Sorry, David.
Thank you, David.
It's kind of up